in the parish through the optimal use and performance, I think of optimal use and maintenance. So with that being said, turn it over to Mr. Falcon, and he's gonna tell us how he keeps us in Baton Rouge, the city of Baton Rouge, traffic safe and efficient as we move around the city.
Thank you. I'm Mike Falcon, and I have given this a variation of this presentation a few times, but I'm hoping that y'all's interests are a little bit different, and maybe y'all have different questions than a lot of people. A lot of people are interested in the basics, but this is a more technology focused group. So hopefully that's why they prefer me to come talk to y'all instead of some of the other people. They want to, if they thought y'all might have more tech related questions and computer related questions. So I'm gonna get started, but if anybody has any questions, we can stop at a slide, after each slide and work through it and see what we got to talk about. We do our presentations, we tend to use the logo MoveBR, which is something that everybody's probably heard. You all probably voted on about 5 years ago or so. And that is the latest in a series of initiatives that was a tax pass to get transportation funding for projects, not for day-to-day operations, but for what they call capital outlay projects, where you improve this roadway, improve this traffic signal. It could be very large projects. I think the biggest one we'll end up doing is down Airline Highway, or it could be very small projects that are just like going to a certain number of traffic signals and adding cameras to each one or something like that. And a lot of variation in the cost of each of these projects, but the more expensive projects that everybody wants to see happen take many years to happen. So you haven't seen them yet, unfortunately, but that's just how it works. But so let's get started. So this happened with a 1/2-cent sales tax. And I'll be honest with you, I don't really know how all that stuff works. I just go, but that everybody now pays a 1/2-cent parish-wide sales tax. At first, it was voted on as a extra property tax, and that didn't pass. And then at the time, they voted to make it a sales tax, and it started in 2019. Food and medical prescriptions are exempt, and proceeds can only be spent on an approved list of projects that were available before the voting. That's the extent of that, and there's over $1 billion invested. That's not yet. I would say a lot of it has been invested yet, but how much has it been invested on any given day? It's going to be hard to say, but it was a little over $1 billion for purely transportation funding. And I apologize if y'all can't see very well, but I'm this is doing the best with what we have. These are the lists of projects of different types, and the costs and the proposed funding. I will be honest with you, I'm not going to read you all these numbers, but if you're interested in that particular thing, I will gladly show you. Hopefully you're more interested in the things I'm interested in, which is what makes the traffic signals work and how they, how the computers assist them in working. But this is just the rundown of the program estimates, and in 2019, how much has been outlaid by 2024, and yes, and that's pretty much shows that we have spent at this point, I think, actually, I don't know how much has been spent at this point because of the major projects. So this slide doesn't say that, so I apologize. But this is where it gets, what they promised in these various projects was to increase the number of lane miles of roadway, which is extending lanes in the roadway for, as an example, a good example would be Airline or down Jones Creek. Down Jones Creek where it connects to Tiger Bend. They're creating new lanes on those roadways, and Airline hasn't happened yet. I'm trying to think. Old Hammond's the next one that's coming, and that one is going to add lanes to Old Hammond. And that was a big thing, a big metric for measuring the efficiency of the project is how many more, and that increases your capacity. Every mileage of lane gives you more capacity for people on the roadway.
Excuse me.
Yes, sir.
The extension of, or the addition for Cannon, is that where it goes from, 4 lanes to 2 lanes? Is it, you gonna extend it that way? Or are you gonna put
Yes.
additional lanes on the improvement?
No, the extension of where it goes from 4 to 2. So, and I will be honest with you, I deal with the projects once they start. In the planning stage, I have an awareness, but there's a lot of projects and I don't exactly remember, but I'll tell you where to find the info for each one. The ones that I have done, I kind of do them once the construction and the engineering starts versus the planning out. And so on Old Hammond specifically, I don't know the extents of that particular project, like where it starts and where it ends. But there's a website that I can show everybody that has all of that information for every project in the whole parish. And as it goes, and that is, yes. So the lane miles of enhanced roadway are expansions of existing lanes, things like that. And bike lanes is another way that another thing that it enhances the existing lane of the roadway. And that's another aspect of the project. One of the big things that the city parish focuses on is complete streets. And complete streets are streets that are not just safe for vehicles. They're safe for pedestrians walking down the street. They're safe for bicycles on the street. They make it safe for everyone. And that's been a city parish focus for a very long time. And that's what the enhancements are. The mileage of sidewalk is a big one. I was looking at the sidewalk project that's going on Sherwood, if anybody's familiar with that. That is a good example of what they're doing to create sidewalk. That one is going from, I do know the extent of that one, and it's going from Old Hammond to South Harrell's Ferry, putting sidewalk all the way down Sherwood for pedestrians and making pedestrian crosswalks at the traffic signals. Miles of bike path, again, that's adding bike paths to existing roadways. Traffic signals upgraded and traffic signals replaced. The traffic signals upgraded that section is mostly done because it's a lot quicker to upgrade a traffic signal than it is to replace and construct a whole new one. Miles of fiber added for the signals. Now, a lot of people don't know, but we need to be able to communicate with the signals. And the city parish has a fiber optic system that connects from our traffic management system on Harding to almost every traffic signal in the city, going through fiber optics down different corridors, mostly the interstate and airline, and then branching off to all the different sections of the city. And that is a project that I did work on and am much more familiar with. New school flux. Yes, sir.
So this light, say, this light right here is controlled by the people on the hangar kind of,
The lane,
the red light, or the bills and blue line.
it's not, so traffic lights, traffic signals are controlled by devices at the location
Right.
and can be managed, or the control can be taken over by somebody by the
See,
airport.
I've been out there a couple times, that's why I know y'all can name it the hangar out.
Okay, I never called it the hangar. I've worked there a long time, never thought it was the hangar, but yeah, it is it's an airport, yeah, yes. And so the traffic signal is not entirely controlled. It's independent. If you cut the communication lines to it, it still works. You can't, that would be very unsafe if it was dependent on that working all the time. So the traffic.
Just a couple times, it seems longer than it normally is. Yeah. That's all I was asking.
You know, that time changes throughout the day. And so traffic signals have schedules in them and they know what time of day it is. And they say at certain times of the day, we want to give this left turn more time or less time because there's more people making the left turn at this time. So at Bluebonnet at Highland, if you're going southbound towards the river, we'll say, this is not truly southbound, but we'll, on Bluebonnet, in the evening, more people are doing that. And then in the morning, more people are going towards Perkins on Bluebonnet. So at different times of day, the traffic signal gives a different amount of time for the people going one direction and going the other way. Almost every traffic signal does that. So you're gonna get it at a different time of day, a different amount of time at each light. And it's a matter of which direction you're going to. The left turns get less time than the through. So if you're waiting to make a left at Bluebonnet, you're not gonna have as much time as you were to go straight. And that can be overridden from the office, but it is independent of that. It's a computer sitting at each traffic signal, cycling through all day long. And that's how the basics of how, yes, ma'am. Almost every light in the city, so when you see there's something that says signals upgraded, almost every light in the city parish is on a sensor of some sort or the other. And so if no one is there, it should not. Now, everybody can come up with the one time they saw it not doing this, and we have a complaint list full of those, so I'm well aware that that happens, but if it's not, no one is there, it should not give them a green. It happens regularly. These sensors are very difficult to maintain and keep working flawlessly all the time. It's, but almost, there are maybe 4 or 5 traffic signals in the whole parish that are waiting to be upgraded that haven't been upgraded yet, but almost everyone has sensors that say someone is here, someone is not here. Do not give these people green because no one's there. Give more green because someone is here. And that's the basics of how that works. And that's been actually traffic signal, that capability has been around since before I was born. I think they started doing that in the 60s. But it was very expensive and cumbersome back then. Now it's mostly done by video. They have cameras on the signals that say a person is here, a person is not here. Let's let them go. Or let's not let anybody go because no one's there. And the next time you're at a traffic signal, if you look, and the problem is that we don't have one technology at every traffic signal. We've used over many years, different generations of different people's technologies to do all this stuff. But the most common type you could see are cameras that if you just look up at where the traffic signal and you look on the bar, what we call the mast arm, you'll see a device that looks kind of like a boxy thing, and that is a camera. Now, it's not, everybody believes it's recording them. It's not. Nobody really wants to see people. I hate watching people drive through traffic all day. It's very boring, but people believe that's recording them. It's a camera that has a computer inside that says there are people here or not and detects images. And then when the image is gone, no one's here anymore, move along. And that's what that is. And it sends a signal down through an Ethernet cable to the controller, which controls the traffic signal. And that is what says these people have a green, they need more time, they need less time, they don't need any time because no one's there. And that's kind of the basics of how a traffic signal works. And traffic signals, for the most part, have had that capability for many years, many years, but it's not been, it's been generally more expensive, more difficult. And it's, city of Baton Rouge for for many years does not have those everywhere, only on major places. I think and then a lot of times when they break, they were difficult to fix because the old ones were in the ground and you had to get a concrete saw and concrete the ground up. And so it was a nightmare to get it fixed. That's why they started using video devices that are up, because you don't need to saw into the ground, which you don't have to close lanes. You don't have to stop traffic. You just have someone in a bucket truck, which I'm sure you've seen, that can get up there and re-aim the video if it's working. Or we could re-aim the video from our desk at the office and say, hey, needs to be working better. Let's get it working better. All that stuff is networked and comes back to our office. So the school flashers are, I don't know if y'all have seen those, but it's a they're a more modern type of school flasher that uses cellular modems in each one. And that way when we can program a year of how schools work, but as I'm sure everyone knows, they changed. Schools let out early, so we can turn them on from the office. If a weather event happens and the school lets out early, we send a signal to each of those that says, hey, let's turn the school flasher on at noon to 2 instead of 2 to 4, something like that. And that's the basic operation of those things. And we upgraded most of the system because the previous ones were very long in the tooth and did not work very well at this point. So that was one of the things that the tax dollars are going for.
Are those solar powered?
Some of them, maybe half. The problem is that where I drop my daughter off to school, I was looking at the one the other day, and it had a solar panel on it, but we had a year or two ago, we had to take it down because the trees keep growing too high. We can't get 50-foot tall poles to do the solar where the trees block out all the solar. The batteries die after about 2 days. So no, they're connected to the grid, most of them.
They must be connected to the same line as the street signs, huh? Because there's, like in my subdivision, the power is in the back of houses
Uh-huh.
and there's no power along the streets.
So
I was looking at, you know where Dunham School is?
Mhm.
There's new ones there, relatively new, and they're in
Yeah.
the area between the sidewalk and the curb.
mhm.
And, but there's no, the only power I can see is the underground power to the streetlights.
So that is what they're jumpered off of, is the underground power to the street lighting.
Okay.
That is in most neighborhoods where they get the power source from, that's the power source running down the middle of boulevards in most neighborhoods like that, like where the Dunham School is, and they get power from the streetlight circuits.
Okay.
Yeah, and they are very low power devices, and they're ideal for solar unless you have trees everywhere, which we do. Solar is not great in Baton Rouge neighborhoods for that reason. It's great on your house because the trees aren't as commonly going up, but it's in the middle of boulevards. The way we design these boulevards that look real pretty, in my opinion, are to put trees and streetlights and rotate them up and down the boulevard. Well, then the trees outgrow the solar and you can't get power to them. So we have a mix, and the devices don't care where they get the power from, and they don't take much power, but we just have to pick and choose which gets what type of power.
Just splice into the.
Yes, exactly. It's really, so to give you a little bit more, is our devices, we have special rates for things, so we're not metered. We just pay a flat rate for it. And so Energy says you are spliced into the streetlight circuit or not, and you have this device and it has a special rate for the metering.
That's what I figured.
Yeah. Okay. Oh. I'm sorry, I pressed the down button instead of the over button. There we are. This is just the progress to date. There are 32 projects completed, 24 projects under construction, and 78 projects in pre-construction. So if y'all been paying these this extra 0.5% tax and saying you're angry because you don't see much improvement, well, the big improvements take the longest. As you can imagine, that cutting a whole new road or something like that is a big ordeal. But the smaller improvements that are done, lane enhancement type improvements, they're a little bit easier to get done. So that we went and did those first while people were designing the bigger projects, your airlines, or maybe things on College Drive, Old Hammond, stuff like that. Yeah. Then they also have to go and buy right away, do all this complicated stuff that's part of the whole engineering design process. So we took the smaller projects that are less important for the design. That's not the right way to say it. The smaller projects that have simpler design processes, and went ahead and did those so people could start seeing some results. And then the longer term projects will, unfortunately, when you want to redo Airline Highway, it's not a 1-year project. It's a many year project that you have to do designs, and you have to coordinate with the state to get things going, coordinate with the federal highways to get things going. Thousands of hours of meetings. And so it's a different process than if you want to go and replace the sensors at 20 different traffic signals. to be honest, the sensors at a few traffic signals, we have people that can just do that. So it's not even a project. We just have to procure the sensors and go out and install them. So it's a little bit different scale that we're looking at. And so a lot of these projects in pre-construction, that's where a lot of the tax dollars are going, and they're working on them and they're coming. The next big one you're gonna see is Old Hammond.
You have a lot that, for the emergency vehicles to change the light, are there many,
So
intersections that are?
they may get to, we may have a slide for that, but I will go ahead. And this will be on this page. So 32 projects complete. I'm gonna be honest, I don't want to read those to you, but all of them, but I will answer specific ones that for the emergency vehicle preemption project, that was possibly I think it was the second project we completed. Because you don't have to close a lane or get in the road or anything like that. All that work is done inside the traffic signal cabinet. And I always make too many assumptions about what people understand, but if you've ever had a traffic light stopped and you look around and you see a giant metal box on the side, that's most likely the traffic signal cabinet. And inside there is a lot of equipment. The controller that we've talked about is the main and most important thing, and that's what's telling the traffic signals to move around, go green, yellow, green, yellow, red, green, yellow, red. But inside that is also a device that has emergency vehicle preemption. And how that works, there was an emergency vehicle preemption system that came around about 25 years ago. It was the late 90s, and we upgraded from that to a more modern GPS-based system. And that's what was on, and we put it to every signal in the parish by now. And that project was completed a few years back. I'm not good with remembering when things were done just because time just flows for me. I don't really think too hard about it, but that's one of our first projects that we completed. And they were looking for what they called shovel-ready projects that you could start today. Then, because we knew we had projects, Airline Highway as an example, that would take years to start and years of design. So this was a shovel-ready project that we could start today. And that was one where we procured the equipment and contracted out a small contractor to come and just take two guys, and they would go to each cabinet, install it, and then we would configure it back at our office and get it working. And so now when you see an ambulance, and a lot of people see it all the time, but they're not paying real good attention. But if an ambulance is going down Essen, they should get the green. We want to get them. And so if you're in their lane, you may get a green when you weren't going to get it, but that's okay because they want you to move out the way. You see what I'm saying? They want you to get out the way, get out their way. So they're getting a green. Nobody else is, and everybody else is angry and thinks that we're not doing our jobs right. But what we're doing is just trying to get the ambulance to the hospital as fast as possible to save somebody's life. And that's what they call emergency vehicle preemption, and it prioritizes the ambulances over other vehicles. The other thing we prioritize is common that everybody has seen and nobody thinks about is a train. A train is the highest priority thing that'll come through because you don't want to fight with the train. If the train's coming, you can't be on the tracks. So that says to the traffic signal, close those gates, get everybody off the tracks, clear them out, and stop sending people that way. So
That's
if
why Perkins in a college here that light up that says no right turn.
exactly,
I've seen
and that light, when the train's on there, it says no right turn because you cannot make a right turn because there's a train right there. It's just, that's another form of what we call preemption that preempts the normal operation of the traffic signal and for a higher priority, specifically an ambulance or a train. There's places where they use different things to preempt. Fire trucks also have them. And then there are some cities that have it on buses to give bus priority, but not in Baton Rouge just yet. So if any of these projects, and I don't think we have enough time to go through them, but these projects specifically that say ADA, those are sidewalk projects, and sidewalk projects are more what they call shovel ready than other projects. You can build a sidewalk quicker than you can build a street. And so I know this is very hard to see, but this is just a long list of all the various projects that we have completed, some of which the more interesting ones we're going to talk about, but most of the projects that we have completed are a lot of sidewalks and enhancements to traffic signals. Oh, more projects. These are projects that are in the design phase. And those ones are coming out in the next year or two. If you look at them, I think around here, there is north of here on Bluebonnet, there's what's called the Hennessy Perkins connector by the new Children's Hospital, if anyone's aware of that. And that will take what used to be Ralph and Cacoo's. The road is going to cut through parallel to the interstate right there and give you a cut through to Essen. That's a major,
That's continuation constant.
exactly. It's the second half of that project. So that project is the next, those projects are so big that they divide them up into two phases. And if you ever go down Constantine, the road ends in a dead end and you're like, well, why? Because they have to redo the second phase.
Here's a quick question.
Sure.
Where we are right now, we are in the new city of St. George.
Mhm.
How's that gonna affect this new BR as a?
So MoveBR is parish wide. I work for the city parish, the consolidated city parish. It doesn't affect any of this at all for the most part. How taxes are collected and stuff like that, that's a little bit different, but this is a city parish, it's a city parish wide thing. So that would also include Zachary, Central, Baker, St. George, and City of Baton Rouge, as well as I guess we still have unincorporated areas. I think we have a few. I'm not aware, I don't remember where they are, but
Out here by North.
exactly. That's what I think is the Pride area, I think. But
Right, actually, right here where my street right here,
mhm,
we're surrounded on all sides by the city of St. George.
Mhm.
Aisle.
mhm,
In the middle, because we have an apartment complex in the back of the city of St. George. Founders decided not to include the city.
right.
They did the zigzag around.
But just like the library, which won't be affected either, the city of St. George, there's not a city of St. George library system. It's the East Baton Rouge Parish Library System. It's the same concept. So these projects are all parish-wide projects, and the MoveBR so we're not greatly affected by that. So this is another list of projects that are that are coming in the next year or two. This is a lot. It's a lot of projects, and most of these ones that say ADA are sidewalk related. Some of these are bike paths. The Sherwood Forest multi-use path was being worked on today, I saw. These are different bike and sidewalk projects in the area, as well as, and I'm sorry, not everybody can see very well, but anybody who wants to look at it after. But then there's some other huge projects, which y'all may have noticed. If anybody's been out to Piku Lane and seen the new interstate interchange, yes, ma'am, that was a major project. That's not a small sidewalk project. That's one of the biggest projects that we've had in a long time. And oh yeah, it's still being worked on. It's not, but yes, for a very long time. Yes, ma'am. Also nearby here, and I'm gonna just use this area as a point of reference because it's where we are and everybody probably lives all over. They're cutting a new area through back behind the mall that will take you to Perkins. And that is what they're calling, and that is on, they're calling the Mall Louisiana Boulevard Perkins Picardy Connector. Yes, and it'll be cut behind, kind of, if you live near the Dunham School, between there and Fresh Market will be a new road.
I've seen the construction.
Right, because I imagine it affected you as someone, because it's putting a road close to your house.
Well, I'm a
Yeah.
little ways away, but
Yeah.
it's been stalled for over a year because of the railroad.
Yes, but you think it's being stalled for over a year because of the railroad is a long time. Nicholson at Brightside was stalled for over 10 years because of the railroad. So, I mean, I've seen for the railroad, everything takes a lot longer when the railroad doesn't feel like cooperating, but they've done all the engineering work on it, and it's just waiting for the railroad to approve certain things so they can proceed with the construction.
As I understand, they had it all approved by the railroad, and then the railroad was bought out by
Mhm.
another one, and they had to start over again.
Exactly. Yes, ma'am.
I also think it's easier to get to Optional Road.
Where?
On the new road, the Optional
Optional Road.
Oh, on the interstate, the one that, it's the one off of, I kind of think of it as being close to Seagan. So that is, I work for the city parish, not the state of Louisiana. Interstates are governed by LA DOTD. I'm not aware of anything they're doing. We work with them all the time. But that's
I don't know, easy way to get there. I come all the way to the mall
Right.
and I go through the mall and then I make a right and get there.
right.
Going out, one can go on to see them, but it's always so backed up both ways.
Well, no, ma'am, I'm not aware of anything that would make it easier at the moment, unfortunately for you. I don't have, I don't think anything is in
Yeah, they
the,
got an exit.
right,
Basically off the mall, Louisiana / Blue Line exit, and then
right.
it goes in off the on ramp from
On
Blue Line
on-ramp.
into
Right.
I-10.
Yeah, but you gotta be on that side road to get to it.
Yeah.
Right. But no, ma'am, I'm not aware of anything, unfortunately. So this is where we get to where the areas that I'm more interested in. MoveBR has built one of the most connected traffic signal systems in America. So we have a city, in the parish, there are a little bit over 500 traffic signals, of which 480 are controlled or either owned by the state and we maintain them and operate them, or owned by the city parish, and of course we maintain and operate them. So that's 480 traffic signals, of which almost every single one of them are connected and centrally managed. It can be centrally managed back from the office. We have a very large deployment of fiber optic cable. They say about 176 miles of fiber optic cable underground or throughout the parish that connects and creates our own network of that's just used entirely for traffic signals. A lot of that was done, I'd say almost half of that mileage was done through the MoveBR project. And before that, we had been doing it couple miles, a corridor here, a corridor there at a time. And this was the kind of project where we said, look, let's just finish. Let's just do it all and make it all work the same and create everybody, no matter where you live, gets the same quality of traffic signals, no matter where you are. And so that's what we did. And at the moment, there aren't many other cities that have more fiber optic cables than we do controlling it. And you think, okay, your major cities, your New York and Los Angeles, yeah, they do. But I'm talking about cities roughly the size of Baton Rouge. Some of the more advanced ones would be Salt Lake City is the most advanced from a traffic standpoint. If any, well, Dallas is, I think, 7 or 8 times the city of Baton Rouge. Yeah, but Dallas, I would not say, or Houston would not say has as advanced of infrastructure from a communication standpoint as we do. They're also a lot bigger. It's a lot more space to cover. Houston is an interesting thing because I don't know, you know how we have 5 cities in the parish? They have many, many different municipalities in Houston, and each one is funded from slightly different. So it's complicated to get everyone in Houston on the same page. So if you drive around Houston, you will see very cutting edge technology. 1 mile later, you will see technology from the 70s. And it's just because of the way Houston as a city versus Houston, the parish of Houston, which I mean, it's not a parish, it's a county. And I can't remember the name of the county, but Harris County. Harris County operates not as one city parish like this Baton Rouge does. So it's not unified at all.
I think, it's been $80
Oh. So Dallas is also like Houston, although Houston's more egregious than Dallas in that different parts of Dallas have very advanced technology, and then a mile later you will have very primitive technology. It's not very unified, and it's because Dallas-Fort Worth is over multiple counties, to be honest, and many, many cities and municipalities in those counties, and it's not as organized as the city parish of Baton Rouge is, for better or worse. So this is why we did it. We created a connected city parish allows you to manage everything centrally. Again, if you cut the communication to a traffic signal, you still have the traffic signal can run. We're not running it. We sit watching it run and can change how it's running. That's what we mean by centrally managed. Yeah, changing the centrally management traffic signal. We can, when there are incidents, a wreck. The comment is a wreck, something's blocked, we need to reroute traffic. Special events, which is the LSU football games, most common, but other special events too. They have a lot of special events down at what used to be called the Centerplex. I think it's the River Center now. There's a whole, and we have to do stuff for those. Hurricane evacuations, and honestly, I recommend if they're evacuating for a hurricane, please just don't drive, because it's very, but if you do, you're going to notice on places like Airline, they're giving all the time to Airline Highway and very little time to anybody else. And that's because people are coming from New Orleans down Airline Highway and trying to get them out, get them from the southern part of the state to the northern part of the state. So if you're ever trying to get somewhere and you're trying to cross over Airline Highway during the middle of right before a hurricane's about to happen, I would recommend never doing that. But if you do, you're going to have to wait a very, very long time, 5 minutes or more at the traffic light, and you're going to get impatient. But the safety of the people trying to evacuate, once we get them into the parish, we want to get them out as fast as we get them in, and that get them to a safer place up north. And so that's the priority there. We also do a lot of management for the interstate construction. I don't, whenever they change things with the college ramp, they keep doing that and they change everything. We're able to make changes on our end to adjust the timings for that. So they say, okay, we need a little bit more or less time because we're closing a lane, we're opening a lane here, so we're doing that. This is hopefully allows for faster emergency response times. The ambulances, the ambulances can get safer back and forth to the hospital, but really what we're trying to shoot for is more consistent commute times for most people. And so that's the goal for that. This is reels of conduit. That conduit is what we use to put in all the mileage of fiber. We bought 80 miles of conduit all at once right before COVID. So we got a much better price than if we would have bought it. We just got lucky. We didn't know, that the price was going up, but we got a substantially better price than if we would have purchased it after COVID, even a year later. But that is I find this picture interesting. This is conduit that goes underground that you put fiber optic cable into, and that is close to 80 miles of it. Is the most I'd ever seen at once. I think it's pretty amazing. This is the side that we kind of already talked about for the emergency vehicles, which in this parish is fire trucks and ambulances. We discussed how that preemption works and how it gives safer for it creates safer situations for the emergency vehicles. And not, if an emergency vehicle can have some control over the light, they're still going to run that red light, but somebody else could. So it's better for everyone if they give everybody in the intersection red except for them, and then they just go through. And that's kind of what we do with the emergency vehicles. No, it's a GPS unit on their vehicle and it's just automatic. Yeah, it's not a button per se.
Well, they gotta be able to turn it off, because if they're not going to an emergency.
Well-
They don't get the,
We've had problems with that, but if they're not going into an emergency, it turns on when their lights turn on. Their emergency lights. So if they're not going to, if a fire truck isn't, if it's just driving down the road and not going to an emergency, they shouldn't have their lights on. I'm not their supervisor, so I don't really know what they do on their own time, but, that's how that works. It's connected, it's wired directly to the lights. And so sends a GPS signal to a central server in Atlanta at the moment that sends it back to our traffic signals from there and says, hey, the fire truck's coming. They're going at this speed down the road. They're this far away. Let's try and get this a green on this light. And that's kind of basically how it works. No, police don't have that. If they turn on their left turn blinker or their right turn blinker, the algorithm knows that they're gonna make a left or a right and calculates it based on that. So one of the projects we did, which was a pretty quick project that, was to put battery backup units on a good, almost a fifth of all the traffic signals in the parish. We tried to prioritize important ones for emergencies and stuff like that. So when there's a short-term power outage, we tend to define short-term as about 4 hours or less. It will keep powering the signal, even if it's not getting power. It'll power the traffic signal off of batteries. So if you're driving during a short-term power outage, and you see a signal that's dark, that's very unsafe, as I'm sure everyone's aware, because no one knows exactly how they want to behave and people do. Well, the idea is if during a short-term power outage, we can keep those traffic signals on and you can get home, you know, and get off the road, hopefully, because those batteries can only last for so long. And yeah, we can't do it forever.
I noticed on Bluebonnet, around the mall
Uh-huh.
area, periodically, they go to flashing.
That's everywhere, unfortunately, but yes. So when they go to flashing, that's generally not designed or intentional. There's a lot of reasons why it could go to flashing, but one of them on Bluebonnet, maybe by the mall, is that those signals swing a lot in the wind and you get a short. And when it shorts, it puts it into flash and somebody has to manually take it out. And so that's a safeguard when something happens with the high voltage electrical that the computer doesn't think should be happening, which is commonly a short in the high voltage electrical, and something's red or green when it shouldn't be, it says, hey, something's wrong, come service me. And that's how, that's what it does. And then it goes into flashing operation, because flashing operation is better than telling two people to go green at the same time and running into each other. And so it's the signals on the mall, by the mall, you'll see it more than, because they're a little bit older. Those signals were, I think, built in the late 90s, 99, 2000. And they are on span wires, and so swing a lot more in the wind, and so are more susceptible to getting rattled around in those old signal heads, and something shorts out and somebody has to come fix it.
Is that why you're changing a lot of them to, solid arms?
Yes, solid arms do much better in the wind. They also last longer. So we call that a pole and a mast arm, and the mast arm provides much better resistance to wind issues. It's not perfect because during hurricanes, those things turn, but it allows for, in places where you get hurricanes, and you'll notice like in a lot of places in Florida, along the coast, stuff like that, they've done this a long time ago, but it's also a more long-term solution. We have arms that have been out there for 30 years and they're still doing great. And signals don't fly around as much, and it's lower maintenance for everyone. So yeah, we are pretty close to having mostly mast arms. We have projects scheduled for the next 5 years that'll take care of almost everything that doesn't have an arm, will have an arm, I'd say, in about 5 to 7 years. This are the detection sensors we discussed. They have two of them up here, if you can see, here and here. These are two different cameras, and the reason why we use this one is because we had two different generations of technology installed at one location. At this location, hopefully the older generation has been taken down since then, and the newer but we took a picture to kind of show that these are both styles, and these are cameras that are saying a vehicle is here, we need to service that lane. And that's kind of, we had discussed that earlier. This is inside one of those cabinets. These are two of my technicians, and they are holding what is called a fiber optic patch panel, but these are the controllers. Are hard to actually, this picture does a poor job of showing the actual controller, but this is the inside of one of these cabinets. They did not pick our cleanest cabinet or our tidiest wired cabinet to show you a picture of. This is not the worst by any stretch, but it's not our best. And that, so yes, this is one inside one of the cabinets, and they are, at each cabinet? Oh, no, nobody's there most of the time. We just took pictures of technicians going out and looking inside.
Signal.
Yeah, yeah, no one's there most of the time. Unless there's a problem, no one goes there for, you have to go to one of these things every 2-3 months. There's an air filter you have to change and make sure, but if they don't give us a problem, we don't really go. This is the control panel is inside this metal box. And they don't show a very good picture of it. They don't show inside the box very well, so you can see. These are strategically placed I don't like the term surveillance cameras, but that's what they used. These cameras allow us to actually see what's going on. So at Bluebonnet at Perkins, if you called and made a complaint that it doesn't work very well, people aren't going. If you've driven through Bluebonnet Perkins, you would say that nobody's really happy there. It's going to take us, if I could leave my office at 5 o'clock when you called, it won't be a problem by the time I get there because I work off of Harding, and the traffic will clear it. So we have cameras and we can watch the traffic to see what's going on at these central locations. We don't do that everywhere, but we do it at a lot of major locations. Not at Bluebonnet at Highland, but at Bluebonnet at Perkins for sure. We definitely can see what's going on out there on any given moment and tell you, okay, you're saying this is backed up. What can we do? Let's try and fix it immediately. And that's also another benefit of having communications back to our office.
Bluebonnet and Jefferson's bad too.
Well, that one's under construction, and that's why it's bad. There's not a lot that can be done but it is historically been bad even before. So they're rebuilding that. It's just sequencing it with the current ongoing instruction and the interstate, but that one should be rebuilt to have better capacity. And they're going to if you're going on Bluebonnet towards Airline, they're going to take that bridge and make the left turn lane storage bay longer so it's not backing up and give more. But that one does have a camera that we can see. It's just not a lot can be done at the moment while the construction's going on. Because if people just start turning on to Jefferson where there's one lane, there's nowhere for them to go. It's just an issue. If you take 2 lanes and make it 1 lane, but you don't change the number of people, it's just a math problem at that point, and it's not a good math problem. But so that is that's a major intersection and a very important one. And the MoveBR project is scheduled to update that, and it should go out for bid this year. When will it be done?
Going south on Bluebonnet,
Mm-hmm.
Airline
From Airline?
to Jefferson.
Okay.
The ones just going straight through,
Uh-huh.
sometimes it takes 3-4 light cycles to get through there.
So that's an interesting, nobody likes the answer to this because it is one of the situations. At bad times of the day, not all times, I live near there, so I drive through it pretty regularly, but at the worst times of the day, we have to make decisions on who gets priority on there. So there's not enough time. That's what you call overcapacity. There's too many cars to be driving through that number of lanes. So we have to make decisions to say, we can store people going one direction, but we need to prioritize the people going this other direction. And that's just generally a decision based on how far back the lines are going in both directions. And so while it does go pretty far back in the approach, you're talking about going towards airline at 5 o'clock. Look the next time to see how far back it's going if you're trying to go north on Bluebonnet. There's a lot more people trying to go there. So we're trying to give them and prioritize those people and get them home faster. And that's generally decisions that nobody likes because it doesn't help them, you know? Yeah, and that's kind of the interesting thing about traffic signals is that most people are focused on just their car and them getting through, and they don't really see there's a whole lot of other cars trying to get through too. And how do you prioritize the sequence that you make it? And we kind of make it from the level above the traffic signal where we say, how do we get the most people through this traffic signal at all times? As opposed to the individual car is only wants to get themselves through. They're like, hey, how can we get through? And that is more, when you get to situations like Jefferson at Bluebonnet, it's kind of the numbers tell you that this signal needs to be rebuilt because it does not have enough capacity for the people going through there. That's what the numbers tell you. They don't really give you any hints on how to manage it better because they say this is beyond management. And that's kind of unfortunately, but that's what they say. Yeah, so and we just have to play triage with it as best we can until it can be revealed. And so this is my office. It looks pretty similar to this. We have, this is where I work pretty regularly. We have screens where we're watching a whole lot of traffic, largely interstates and the major intersections. And there are people that if we get a phone call, 311 complaints are the most common way if people have problems with traffic. We can very quickly try and find, hey, where's a camera that we can see this issue? Let's look at it and make adjustments or see what we can do to get this fixed. It's a little bit different every time to try and see what you need to do to get it fixed, but that's what we do. And this is our office where we do it from, and it's just so yes, ma'am, we are on Harding by the racetrack. Do you know on Harding? Yes, ma'am. So that building is a few purposes. It was built in the late 90s. I started working there in the mid 2000s, and it has the 911 call center is the bottom floor, largely the bottom floor. So if you call 911, the call goes there. On the top is what is called MOSEP, the Mayor's Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Preparedness. And I think they have given a presentation to you. Kelly Magaha, I believe, and Eric Romero came and did a presentation. Yes, ma'am. Oh, you have? Yes, ma'am. And then our office we share the upstairs floor with MOSEP. And so if you went and looked out over the Overwatch room where the 911 call center is, we're just down the hall from them. And I don't know, you may have come to our office or since it's been there. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So that building, they call it, it has a lot of different names. The original name was the Office OEP ATMC. Now, I hate acronyms because when you work for the government, it's a lot of acronyms, as I'm sure it is. But that means Office of Emergency Preparedness, which was later changed to the Mayor's Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Preparedness. And then our office, the Advanced Traffic Management Center, and it was a dual use building for all those purposes with the 911 call center in the big room. And it's a pretty impressive, even though it's about 25 years old, I've toured a number of other facilities and it's a pretty impressive one. And it's one of the bigger ones. Now, if you go to Atlanta, of course, there's this way larger and a way better funded, but for cities our size, it's very nice. It's the nicest one in the state by a good stretch. And I would put it as knowing people in the Mississippi and Alabama, it's as nicer than one of those two. But again, we don't really compete with Los Angeles. We compete with cities between a couple 100,000 and less than 1 million people. And that's what, so we're pretty proud of it. We renovated our office recently. For me, the main thing was new carpet. That's what I really wanted because our carpet was very dirty, but we got a lot more, we got a new video wall, which people find very impressive. We really like it. We can project. There's really not much of a limit. The limit is your eyesight on how many cameras, how many traffic signals we can watch at any one given time. And we actually will, this is a static image, but we scroll through different locations to see problems. And then whenever we hear about it, you call 311 or you put in a complaint. It's actually, if you're looking to get complaint service, the better way is to put it in on the app. It gets done faster. But if you call 311 and have a complaint, when we get those complaints, we have a team of people up there and we start looking and start digging into what the problem is. The problems are rarely the same. It's always something new and different every time, but we start digging in to see what we can figure out. And this is our office and they do tours of the building. I probably should have thought about this before. I don't know how you even call somebody to get a tour of the building, but I'll give you my card and you can shoot me an email and I will figure that out if y'all ever want it. And it's a pretty impressive building. And that is out on Harding. If you, instead of going straight to go to the airport, when you get off on Harding, you take a right, you go down 2 traffic signals and there's a racetrack on your right and our building's on the left.
It's like a small public safety compound, because you got EMS in the back too.
Yeah.
No windows.
No, my office has a window. It is windows that are this thick. It's rated for Category 5 hurricanes. That was 20 years ago. It was rated. I think we're probably at Category 4 now. But the windows are this thick with a huge air gap between them. And they claim that those windows can take 150-mile-per-hour winds without batting an eye. Now, the worst hurricane I don't remember hurricanes by how much wind there was, more so than just how much general damage. But the worst hurricane that I worked in that building for was Hurricane Gustav. Katrina and Gustav both had high wind, but you know, that building doesn't bat an eye when it comes to, you know, we don't really have problems there. We never lose power. It has giant diesel generators that are rated to stay on no matter what. It's a very impressive building. I don't recall ever losing power or internet during any hurricanes since Katrina or before. Yeah. Yes, ma'am. Oh, sorry. You go ahead. Oh, it's meant for drainage. So that's I am not a civil engineer, so forgive me, but you know, when you build up an area that's low, you have to build the drainage out for it. And that's essentially for rainwater to come into and collect and then drain out.
Called retention pond.
Yes, that's exactly the word.
And also your building during Katrina was actually the seat of, temporary seat of Jefferson Parish government for a little while too.
Yeah, our building holds, so the mayor comes to our building. So the state has a version of their building. I wouldn't say it's as nice as our building, but they might. And that's where the governor goes, and that's on Independence Park area, off of, you know, between Florida and Government off of Independence. But ours is where the temporary seat of government, as they say. Yes. Yes, ma'am. Oh, yes, they have the mayor has a bedroom and a shower up there. Now, I have an office that I could sleep in that I have as my regular office. I do sleep. I slept up there during the snowstorm. I sleep up there every time there's a big event. But the mayor actually has a proper bedroom as opposed to an office that you sleep on the ground. And then we have showers that are shared with a lot of people, like dormitory showers. And I just drive home. You know, I just go home. I kind of know. I mean, a lot of people do it, and you got to do it. But I can get home pretty easily during every event we've ever had, and I just go home. So that's what I don't do that, but you'd be shocked. Most people do. We have it's like 3 shower stalls per gender. And during the morning, you go in and everybody's brushing their teeth, doing their hair, taking a shower. It's what it is. It becomes, a regular office building becomes a camp almost. And that's, but the mayor does have his or her own shower and own everything, but nobody else does. The rest of us share. And that's also, so that room that you would have toured, what we call the Overwatch room that you can see, that's where heads of every agency go and sit in that room and coordinate. So your head of, your EMS heads coordinate with, and this is all down to like heads of the people who trim trees, that is maintenance divisions, the head of the drainage departments. Yeah, the Red Cross, that's not just city parish agencies, that's agencies as well. And so we send people over to the state building and they send someone over to us. That's the St. George Fire Department, the EBR Fire Department, the Zachary Baker sometimes Fire Department, all these different entities come to this one building that's designed to have everyone come during an event. And I will say that I've worked there since or around Katrina time, and it's a pretty, it hadn't failed just yet. You know, anything can happen, so I don't really say, but it's pretty, we never lost power for more than a blip, you know, it's pretty amazing. So these devices, most people don't find these very interesting, but a lot of funding for roadways comes from, we have to report, if we want money from the federal government for our roadways, and every municipality and state depends on money from the federal government as well as your tax dollars directly, we need to count the traffic and report back. So we have to fill out, and these are automated count stations. So this little device up here, which is very hard to see, looks down at the traffic and can count vehicles. Do we need to call it a day? Yeah, I think this is pretty much the end. But since y'all been asking most of y'all's questions during the thing, that's additional upgrades. What might keep you from catching a green light? This is one slide that everybody wants to see. If you're not getting a green and you think you should have a green, this is, most people in this parish think they should always have a green, and they're not getting it and they're very angry. And when they're not getting their green, these are some of the reasons. You know, but yes, I think that covers it. The other thing they like me to always say is that we are putting the money into the local economy using local contractors and state contractors. So the money that you're paying in taxes is getting pushed back out to the local economy. And this is the website, and that's the end of the presentation. And if y'all have any questions, I'll stick around for a few minutes and yes.